everyone. Welcome to Zaiqa Chronicles. I hope all of you are doing well. Through these sessions, we are attempting to talk about cultural histories and culinary traditions that are not part of the popular, mainstream popular imagination. मेरा नाम आली है और आप जो इतने हफ्तों से हमसे जुड़ रहे हैं, आप हमारे लाइव सेशंस का हिस्सा बनते हैं और कई बार हमारे रिकॉर्डेड सेशंस देख के हमें मैसेज करते हैं. थैंक यू सो मच for your constant love and support. It means a lot to us. और आज हम बात करने वाले हैं ओडिया कुजीन की और आज हमारी गेस्ट हैं डॉक्टर गोपी देवदत्त त्रिपाठी. हेलो मैम. Hi, how are you?
I'm fine. How are you? Thank you for inviting me here.
Thank you so much for joining us. और आप सोशियोलॉजी की एसोसिएट प्रोफेसर हैं. शी इज़ अ सीनियर कॉलीग एंड अ वेरी डियर फ्रेंड ऑफ माइन. और हम ओडिया फूड के बारे में तो बात करने वाले हैं और आप हमें बताएंगी कि आप किस तरह से दिस इज सच एन इम्पॉर्टेंट पार्ट ऑफ योर आइडेंटिटी. लेकिन उससे पहले मैं ये कहना चाहूंगी कि द वे वी स्पोकन अबाउट फूड एंड स्पेशली ओडिया कुजीन, आपने जिस तरह से जो चीजें मुझे बताई हैं और पॉइंट आउट की हैं, यू नो, आई फाइंड इट वेरी वेरी इंटरेस्टिंग. आप आई वुड लाइक टू टेल माय ऑडियंस कि शी इज नॉट इनहेरिटेड द कल्चर, नॉट बोर्न इनटू एन ओडिया फैमिली. और इससे जो इनके जो लेंस मुझे जो लगा ना, लुकिंग एट द कल्चर इज वेरी यूनिक एंड वेरी डिफरेंट. बिकॉज वंस यू इनहेरिट द कल्चर, वो अलग बात हो जाती है किसी नए को वो culture समझाने में, बताने में, because there are a lot of things you kind of assume that the other person knows. Or as a tourist, you know, I can go to a place, I can consume that culture for a week, or as a tourist, I can do a food walk. But जो चीजें आपने, I hope I'm able to bring those out as we with my questions as we go along the conversation. तो चलिए शुरू करते हैं मैम. So just tell us a little bit about you and Odisha and the Odia culture and how it is a part of your identity.
Yeah, it is a very important part of me. So I think one part of me is definitely Odia. I got married into an Odia family 30 years ago, and I went to Rourkela. My father-in-law he was an REC, that is what is today called the NIIT. And so I got married there, and it has been ever since an absolutely magnificent journey for me, because I enjoyed every bit of it. It's for me, everything was a wonder. So food was one of the things which struck me a lot, because I went from a Punjabi family. We have set foods, you know, like we have limited one roti, sabzi, dal. You know, but there I saw such a variety, and till date I feel very confused when I have that spread laid before me. And I found that cooking was such a process. It is such a part of the culture that you can see a lot of culture and the structure of Odia society, at least my family. So whatever I'm going to be talking is what I have seen, what I have absorbed, and what I have experienced.
Right.
And what are the things? So whatever I say is just a part of me. So
right.
And then you went to
Odisha has such a rich history, you know. जब हम ancient और medieval history पढ़ते हैं, it's been such a prominent part of the maritime history of this country. It had reaches up till Southeast Asia. It had such prominent links of trade, and वो सारा सब कुछ मुझे लगता है खाने में भी काफी reflect करता है वो जो है. And it has one of the oldest organized kitchen when we talk about the temple kitchens, which is so important in Odia cuisine. And like how it happens with all the cuisines. सबसे पहले जब हम इंडियन cuisine के बारे में बात करते हैं, we have a very set idea, like when we go to restaurants and what people understand as Indian cuisine, it's predominantly North Indian fare that we get in restaurants, you know, that the certain dishes that figure out in the when you talk about the Indian cuisine. And regional cuisine में भी उड़ीसा के cuisine के बारे में लोगों को बहुत ही कम पता है, in spite of it having you know, a very diverse culinary culture. I have grown up in eastern part of the country, and I don't know so much about Odia food.
Yeah, right. For me, I hope I'm not interrupting. For me, it has been. When I think of Orissa, it's association of food, home, because when we used to go, my visit to Orissa has been over 30 years. Obviously, like any person who works outside the state, so you go on holidays, festivals, and weddings. So, but it has been when we go there, particularly then later my father-in-law retired and he went to shift to Cuttack.
Mm-hmm.
So, my husband, me, and my daughter, and then later my daughter and me, we just used to go to be a part of the rhythm of the place, so which was set by. It is very interesting that they had this rhythm of getting up and making a breakfast at their own pace, and the breakfast is also you actually look forward to having what they used to have. That is my father-in-law and mother-in-law. So you have things like routine also. Egg and toast was my husband's favorite, but I would want to have what they had. My mother-in-law, like you have.
What would be like a predominant like a breakfast fare अगर कोई उड़ीसा की बात की जाए तो?
उड़ीसा की बात की जाए तो मैं अपने घर की बात कहूंगी कि अलग अलग होता है, पर जनरली जैसे कभी छतुआ लेके आते थे, दिस इज छत्तू, so उसमें you mix it with a little bit of milk and sugar or gur and
Which is like roasted
yeah.
gram flour atta.
Yes. You have different varieties of that. And my parents-in-law have this amazing knowledge of these food and the ingredients and quality. So, or there is chura, which you soak it, you get up in the morning, do your thing, soak it in water, go away, and then you come back, add milk to it, and you add bananas and things like that. So that is another favorite of mine, which I go and always have. And of course, the routine, this paratha hota hai, jisko aap kabhi aloo bhaja ke sath bana lete hain. They have a distinct way of making aloo bhaja, at least in my family in the morning. And my husband and my brother-in-law school mein, they used to take that Tiffin. She's cutting in my family. Start the process of cooking, starting with choice of vegetables plus the chopping of the vegetables. I think it was an art. My father-in-law was the shape of what he cut was like piece of art. They used to cut it on the hasia, what you call it, and every piece that you cut was absolutely the same size. And he used to
Right.
always say that what you cut also determines the taste. So whenever my husband used to be here and I used to chop potatoes in a big way, that made he used to comment that the taste goes. You don't cut vegetables like that.
So it's very precise, right?
Very
Uh,
precise.
So
Yeah.
when we talk about food of your family, we are basically talking about Cuttack, Puri, Bhubaneswar. We're talking about the coastal cuisine predominantly.
You could call it coastal protein because I have been living in these areas. We shifted to Cuttack. My father-in-law's village is near Cuttack. My mother-in-law belongs to Mayurbhanj district, which is by Baripada, and it's a very place, very artistic place, and a lot of legacy there. And she has a distinct form of cooking that she got from there. So it's a blend of everything and a lot of things that we cook. So if I would say, my memories would be of, talking of sometimes when I get homesick here, my daughter and I, so we decide to cook an Uriya cuisine. कि रोज कैसे खाते हैं? So we would have, the breakfast is there and the daily food, you'll have this spread of, you have this dali, there is bhaja, there is tarkari, and then there is sago, which is saag. I've never seen such a variety of sags there. Leutia saag, kui saag, and all those varieties.
So, what would, sorry, I'm interrupting you. I just wanted to ask you, what would be to you quintessential techniques which are very Odia to you? ये जो cooking techniques and the way the spices which are used, the techniques which are used are so different from how probably the kind of food you've grown up with.
Yes. For me, Panch Foran is very striking there. Like dal ka chauka also you give with Panch Foran. And of course, the variation of the ingredients is different. Kala jeera, in our family, don't put soft much of it. The proportions are varied. It is you have it throughout the East. And also very little oil in my house. And Panch Foran is a must. And you don't eat tomatoes. You don't add tomato to the sabzi just like we do in the north. So that is, because there is also this thing that tomato drowns the natural taste of the vegetable. So you avoid it. So whatever is cooked, you retain the natural flavors of whatever is cooked. Even something as simple as palwal, jisko potal bolte, aloo potal bhaja. That also you make sarson ka tel with little bit of panch foran or sarson, and you very only probably namak and haldi, and yet you retain the flavor of that vegetable,
So you
and that is
retain the flavor of the produce basically, and vegetables especially, very lightly spiced. So
yes,
Panch
and also
Foran, those who don't know, it's a blend of 5 spices. It is used in eastern part of the country. And why I said coastal cuisine, because Odisha shares its border with a couple of other states, and it has that influence in its cuisine. So down south, if we go, it has a lot of these Andhra influences, a lot of curry. You were telling me there were a lot of curry patta and tamarind paste which is used, and there's this whole tribal belt where they use a lot of bamboo shoots, and they use different kind of vegetables, and the cooking techniques are also very very different. And in the northern part, you were telling me that the panch foran that you're telling us right now, and uh, the curries can be slightly. Do you think the curries are sweeter like it is in West
no,
Bengal? Is there a
no,
touch of sweetness in the
not
curries?
not at all, not at all. And also curries ka bhi, I mean, what there is a particular, like in when you have dinner, we normally in our family, what my mother-in-law, father-in-law, they used to love, and they still love, is santura, which is a
Mm.
mixture of bengan, kaddu, kela, and
A
just
mix
boil and
Sontura. What
santura.
is it called? Sontura. Right.
Sontura, you mix these, कच्चा केला, बैंगन, कभी कभी भिंडी भी डाल सकते हैं, and कद्दू and
Mm.
aloo. So you put these, and there are different ways. I mean, like for example, she would say that if you first boil the water and then add to it the sabzi to it, then it is a different flavor. If you put the
Mm.
vegetable and boil it, it has a different flavor. And then you give the panch phoron chonka upar se. Then there is bhoja sondura, which is it's not water. This is pani sondura. So you have it with simple roti, and it has I had to acquire a taste for it, but it has a flavor which is distinct, and there's no sweet. You don't
Right.
add like dal में चीनी डालते हैं वो सब उड़ीसा में, at least in my
So
family,
it's नहीं है.
no,
So those
not
of you who are watching this right now, अगर आपको कोई term समझ में नहीं आ रहा है या there's something that you're not familiar with, please comment and ask us. We would love to have a conversation with you. वो भी साथ साथ चलता रहे तो. And there's this thing I was reading about which is called bisara, which is mustard,
yeah,
which is besora.
besoro, mohoro. This is food that you make in the temple. So when you get into this is what I associate with the temple. So like sometimes there is also in Cuttack, and I've seen that sometimes you order food from the temples. So there is this dali, which is that dal is sweet, and it is delicious and a little dense. And then you have besoro. Besoro is with you make mixed vegetables, and I think that has got jeera in that. It's mixed vegetables, and there are
You
certain
order
vegetables.
food from the temples.
Yes, and then you have mohuro, which is made with sarson. And I hope I'm saying it rightly. Maybe I'm not confusing it. Ulta to nahi bol rahi main, but it is that, and then you have what they call anna, which is chawal, and chawal is cooked one handi ke upar the other, and people just order, and it is placed, and there is also a certain kind of a culture associated with how you consume it. So when it is got home, there's a lot of reverence to that. So you lay it on the table and you remove all non-vegetarian items. You keep the place clean, and you also have an attitude of kind of reverence ki mandir ka. It's like kind of Mahaprasad ki jaisa hi banta hai. It's variation of that jo ki puri mein banta hai. And I think it's extremely delicious because it is cooked on I think
Good
handi
fire.
mein banta hai, good
Mm.
fire, and also in handi mein banta
These
hai.
systems are layered on top of each other on
This is
in
the
terms of
rice that is made is छोटे छोटे वो होते हैं कुल्हड़ और मटके एक के ऊपर एक रखते हैं, and then you it just cooks the, and they say that the top one is cooked first
mm,
and the bottom one cooks last, and
mhm.
and of course in Puri you also have the dry prasad which is called khoja. वो एक मट्ठी की तरह होता है, मीठी लंबे लंबे शेप्स होते हैं, so you have that also, and uh, there's a lot of festive. Pitha is very typical of Odisha, which is you can say it is rice, you can say rice pancakes.
Right,
And
right.
it's
So
huge.
when you talk, going back to the temple cuisine, is it a very elaborate fare when you order? It's the prasad that you know. Can you explain ordering food from temple? What is it? It is very. unique, very new. Normally आप temple में जाते हो और you do an offering, you get a little bit of prasad, which is mithai, or sometimes
Yeah.
there are bhog or something. But ordering food from the temple is something
It's
I've
not
not
like
heard.
so it's not like you call like just say we decide कि tomorrow we'll have and it is actually called when you that food from temple we call it obora. That is that food which has not been served to anybody but to God. So it is there is a particular term for that. So you decide beforehand कि tomorrow we are going to have this. So we're going to have obora. So एक दिन पहले आप मंदिर के पुजारी को जाके बोल देते हैं. तो उस हिसाब से फिर वो और सब बहुत लोग जाते हैं. तो उस हिसाब से वो तैयार करते हैं जिस दिन आप and they tell you to come at a particular time. So आपकी हंडिया में आपका खाना तैयार रहता है. You just have to go and collect it. That's all. So, but you have to tell them in advance that this is what we want to have.
And how many dishes normally would that constitute of? Like when you order that?
Rice, it will be that besoro, it will be mohuro, it will be sago also sometimes, and of course that dali will be there. So these are at least these five things will definitely be there. They can also give you khota. There's a particular dish in Orissa, a vegetable or a fruit which is called oud. I don't know if you give it in the temple, but there is also khota. It can be mango khota. It could be made of tomato, and so it varies. But these basic 5 or 6 dishes are definitely there. You have rice and dal, and of course you place it on the table, and that part of it is. And I think the food is
And these are
absolutely.
all different kind of mixed vegetables. And the khota you're saying is basically some sar, some vegetable that has been made into like a
No,
sar
it's
kind
made out of, no, sour is khutta is like chutney. You make it out of bangan. Yeah, there is a particular vegetable called oom. I mean, I don't know how to show it to you, but it is distinct. I found it there only. बहुत खट्टा होता है, but it's delicious when you make it. So you mix it with gourd and all kind of थोड़ा हल्का सा पानी में पका के भी उसके ऊपर थोड़ा छौंका वौंका दे. That's how I've seen my mother-in-law do it, or my family. And I mean, that is how one has learned. And अब उसके साथ में these are the basic things that are given in the temple. वहाँ पे भी आप खा सकते हैं, but I have never had there. But we've had the opportunity of eating from there.
And it had ये छप्पन भोग का concept होता है at the temples. Is there a? I was reading there is a concept called Chappan Bhog in the Jagannath Puri temple, and the whole idea being that
Yeah, I mean, there is a whole Jagannath Sanskruti, and my father-in-law and mother-in-law have mentioned that to me, but I'm not really very sure about that. I mean, I've never, they talked to me about it, but I won't be able to comment on that. But होता है छप्पन भोग, उनको जो प्रसाद चढ़ाते हैं जगन्नाथ जी को. I mean,
And
Jagannath Sanskruti.
I was reading the idea is the कि जब वो गोवर्धन पर्वत को उन्होंने उंगली में उठाया हुआ था to इंद्र के प्रकोप से लोगों को बचाने के लिए, he was there for 7-8 days and he missed that many meals.
Okay.
So that is why all the whole idea of yes, this so that I thought that story was really really interesting.
Yes.
And so we were talking about the temple cuisine, and when Odia regional cuisine की जब बात करते हैं, so temple cuisine becomes like the predominant part of it, where it's the famous other dishes which would be quintessential.
You can say it is distinctive, I would say, of food of Orissa. Definitely, that will be a distinctive taste that is there. Definitely, I would say that.
And people usually draw parallels between Bengali food and Odia food. You would say, are there similarities or they're very different?
I think they're very different. एक तो sweet element नहीं होता है Bengali cuisine में. The Odia flavor is very different. It is. I mean, what do you want? What would you want to compare? I mean, I really can't. I have eaten Bengali cuisine. You have the way the mutton is prepared, non-vegetarian, and the way of and sweet is one part. I mean, it is. I find it very different. There's no similarity, and even if you ask anybody in Odisha who has, a lot of them know, like in my family, most of the people are fluent in Bengali, and are like my mother-in-law belongs to Calcutta. She was born and brought up there, but they will definitely never find it. You will never, if you eat them together, you will find no similarity. It's very different, the flavors. I won't be able to compare any dish.
I think the similarities, people say they're similar because Odia cooks the whole temple culinary tradition that we are talking about in the 19th and the 20th century, because of the various reasons, we won't get into it. Bengal was a important economic hub. It had a lot of employment opportunities. So a lot of these cooks would find employment in the ships, and they would find employment in the houses of these rich Bengali,
Yes,
who would pay a lot of money to have somebody who's so skilled
yes,
to come and work for them. So they came and they brought a lot of they created a lot of dishes, and they brought in that specific touch to
yes.
the Bengali cuisine. So there are certain people would say there's certain similarities in terms of how
Maybe the
certain
passport, maybe the
because
passport.
Odia cooks have contributed to the Bengali cuisines. One can say that.
Sorry?
Odia cooks have contributed to the Bengali
Yeah,
cuisines over a period of time because they were very, very skilled at what they used to do, and there was a huge demand for them, especially a Brahmin cook,
yes, we have.
working in.
Yes, yes, I'd agree with you because I still remember that I remember they had in Rourkela, you had the lady who used to work. I mean, there's a certain quarters are there. So her husband was a fantastic cook, and they used to be their family cook used to be called to cook at particular times. So they're excellent cooks. There's no two questions about that. But I won't be able to say that if this is an insight to me that they have been. I mean, Korea cooks are very popular. I mean, they've gone over to Bengal and all that. But I have had a lot of places Bengali food, but I don't see any similarity in them except maybe for the choka or maybe rasgulla or something like that. I mean, some kind of sweets maybe. I mean, but it is distinct, very distinct, definitely.
Um, you were also telling me about these distinct rituals and foods that are associated with different religious festivals. You were telling me, and that was very
Yes, yes.
fascinating. Tell us a little bit about that.
There is a lot of. I mean, there are a lot of festivals there, and uh, to start with, for example, you have there's this Margashish time, which is around November, December, they call it. So you have this Sudasha Vrat, which is not everybody should keep it, but it's basically for women. So particular kind of dishes are made. Make it's dedicated to Lakshmi. So you make a
Mhm.
pita which is called the Sija Monda, which is you make of rice and it is stuffed with. It's to make it like idli. तो राइस के अंदर आप उसमें नारियल एंड गुड़ डाल के यू कुक इट एंड दैट इज व्हाट इज ऑफर्ड टू लक्ष्मी एंड देन उसको फ्राई कर देते उसको काकड़ा बन जाता है सो देयर आर दीज दिस इज वन एंड देन देयर इज आई वुड रिमेंबर देयर इज वन कुमार पूर्णिमा होती है which is again for unmarried girls and my father-in-law would always call me and my parents-in-law always call me here in Delhi कि कल कुमार पूर्णिमा है एंड जस्ट सुबह थोड़ा सा किसी हाथ जोड़ लेना कहीं पे तो उसमें यू मेक लेई होता है लेई जिसको आई डोंट नो हाउ टू डिस्क्राइब इट्स लाइक फुल्ली इट्स लाइक पफ राइस लाइक वेरिएशन है पफ राइस का तो उसको यू विद राई क्या कहते हैं सुबह यू वर्शिप द राइजिंग सन एंड इन द इवनिंग यू वर्शिप द राइजिंग मून and in the evening you offer in the morning you offer the lei there and another variation you offer in the evening and the idea is that girls get very handsome husbands and then there is pratmashni. Pratmashni is for the firstborn, so it is celebrated for the firstborn and then you make in that time you make a particular pita which is called enduri pita which is again pounded rice puffed rice usme not puffed rice ground rice उसको आजकल लोग सूजी भी कर लेते हैं उसको आप यू make small balls and you fill it with nariyal and that filling and then you roll it in haldi patta and then you kind of cook it so that is there and of course there is also the Savitri Vrat which is women again which is very fascinating usually it happens in May it's just the story of Savitri Satyava it's for the longevity of the husband so there also it's very interesting that you dress up सिल बट्टा होता है तो जो उसका जो सिल जो बट्टा है उसको हल्दी से नाक मुंह बना के that and you dress up in all jewelry and clothes and that day you have food which is uncooked just like Savitri would have had in the jungle where she could not cook food so you have this urad dal या मूंग दाल उसको soak करके उसमें you पानी में then you add banana to it or whatever fruits you have and little bit of sugar and some people of course now add dahi also and that is what you eat on that day and
This
similarly
festival you were telling me about Rojo, which is very fascinating festival that you were telling me.
Rojo is a festival again around June. Again, this is a festival which I mean, it's different opinions about that, but what I have heard from my family that it is usually the Korono, which is the lower caste, that is other than the Brahmins who observe this festival, and it's basically that the earth is menstruating. So girls on this day definitely don't cook; they just dress up, jula julti hai, and कहा जाता है कि you should not touch the earth. The sense don't touch it roughly. चप्पल मत पहनो कई जगह पे my aunt was telling me, तो उनको पैर में पत्ता डाल के आप नीचे उतरते हैं कि भी अर्थ को तकलीफ ना हो. So this is observed for 3 days, and उसमें भी you made a variety of pitas. When I was in Qatar, the neighbors used to send varieties of pitas to eat, and dressed in the best. And of course there is this Kartik Mas. Kartik is the whole month is supposed to be very very sacred and very auspicious. That whatever auspicious work you do in that, I mean, you will. It's supposed to be a very beautiful time. So widows, they go to Jagannath temple and they stay there. While otherwise, what is important here is the last 5 days of this month, they are called Panchuko. So that is the day when they say that even the cranes, I was just told that even the cranes don't eat fish. So that is the time when 5 days is absolutely no non-vegetarian. And then the last day when it is open, that is called Charkhai, which is now will have non-vegetarian food, and that is how it goes. And then there is लक्ष्मी पूजा का एक और जो कि औरतों के लिए बहुत ही important है is a व्रत which is done after the Kartik Mas, where you keep 4 fasts and you tie, एक धागा होता है, every पूजा के बाद उसको एक knot बांधते हैं, and then that is tied around the arm of the woman, and that is that is for the well-being of the family. And since we are at it, there is whole Amish and Niramish ka is a big distinction there. And
which is vegetarian
and non-vegetarian. And also the days, certain days, like for example, my family, Mondays are vegetarian and Thursdays are vegetarian. And Thursdays I find, in my experience, most of the women whom I have encountered, they don't eat because that's supposed to be Lakshmi Day, so they are vegetarians that day. And so much so that when any festival or any collective event is organized, you ensure that one section is there for food for these people, for vegetarian and particularly women. And इसमें क्या होता है कि जब आप ये in this you have on these days there is a distinction between usna rice and orua rice. That is, usna rice is the boiled rice, and orua rice is what you have on days which are auspicious. So आज शुक्रवार है, आज गुरुवार है, तो आज orua बनेगा. आज सोमवार है, तो आज orua बनेगा. And बाकी you can have as many fasts. And Saturdays, some have Tuesdays. So those days, this rice is a very important part, that you don't make usna rice. That today is Somvar, ye hoga. This is what will be made. So, and food, of course, is vegetarian. You will not have. I mean, some people insist, but in my family, it was that my in-laws had never forced us. Ki today we are vegetarian, but if you want, you carry on. So they would follow it very religiously, but there is no imposition. And also, I mean, I can just go on. There are so many little festivals. And Cuttack is one space where I can see that, it is really not touched by urbanization much and with the westernization much. And also, Kartik Mas is also important that it's so sacred that you read anything. So once I was with my family there, so I was in that month. So the women of the building, they read what Bhagavad, Tulsi Katha. That again is a fantastic tale. I find a whole lot of symbolism in that. That was Tulsi और जगन्नाथ की कहानी बताते हैं, and then everybody meets, घर का खाना वाना बना के आते हैं. So उसमें भी, I mean, I don't think there is any specific, but उसका तुलसी का प्रसाद होता है, तुलसी को बाहर रखा जाता है. And there's a story about it, if you have the little time, that there was a Asur called Jalandhar. He was fighting with Dev, so वो लोग उसको मार नहीं पा रहे थे, तो people go to Jagannath and say कि please do something. All the gods go. So he said no, he can't be killed because his wife is pativrata. So if you want to kill him, उनकी wife का pativrata हटाओ. So they said, how do we do that? So he disguised, Jagannath ji disguised as her husband, and he spent the night with her. Okay, when she got to know, she was very upset and very angry. So then he told her that, look, this happened, but you will be worshipped, you will be regarded as most sacred, you will be always in the house. And on this particular day, when Tulsi is worshipped, I will be present there. So the belief is that he's present. So there is a lot of these small, small tales that are there. And I mean, I can just go on and on because you heard these stories from my in-laws, and it's a course of these narratives come as you eat the food, as
as you
you
eat.
as you interact.
मैम आपको मतलब आपकी समझ में क्या आपको ऐसा लगता है कि किसी भी कुजीन या किसी में कल्चर में जितना ज्यादा इलेबोरेट खाना होता है, and women folks are the ones who take care of the cooking mostly, जितना elaborate खाना होता है is an indicator of um, the the gender relations are not, there's not a lot of equality because women are spending a lot of time cooking. You're talking about cutting of the vegetables to the variety of cooking, which is. And why am I saying this? Because we started this session with Ladakhi food, and
Okay.
Zaiqa Chronicles first episode was on Ladakhi food, and my guest was telling me how life is really tough over there. There's so much else that needs to be done. Food is very, very simple, and women don't usually, culturally he was trying to make a point that our women don't really spend a lot of time in the kitchen because we can't afford to. That is not the life we have. But I find a lot in North India, Eastern India, and a lot of our cultures, women spend so much of time in the kitchen cooking
Yeah, but
endlessly to the families.
I totally agree with you in the sense that yes, I have seen in my family. I used to be very in Punjab when I where I came from. We used to cook food finish. So चाहे women ही बनाती थी, cook food,
Mhm.
food finish. In our family, I mean, my mother-in-law, and she has a certain pace of cooking. So she would cook at a slow pace, and as I see it, whether one looks at it, if you're conscious of it or not, I mean, I don't know how to look at it. But for me, when I used to see her, that was a space, that was her space. And that was a
Mhm.
space where she had total autonomy, she had total command, and that was a space where she could be herself. So,
Mhm.
yes, one could say that, yeah, women spend most of the time. But in my family, my father in law was equally involved. I mean, he would cut the vegetables, he would sit with her, and he was a brilliant cook also.
Mhm.
So that said, that stated, but yes, this is. I would say that yes, you do it with joy, and most of the women in my family and my uncles, one is Ahmedabad. I mean, he cooks, and his wife cooks also, but he's very fond of cooking, and most of the things that he handles. So as far as I mean, it is how the. If I didn't, I mean, I have been there. I see this patriarchal structure, but there is a complementarity there in which they are comfortable. And
Mhm.
I initially did talk, say, okay, don't you think? But you realize that they are so embedded in the structure, and there is such a
Mhm.
space that is formed that if I would try to say something which will, if, about inequality or making them question things of that kind where they are really enjoying it,
Mhm.
I thought I was just intruding into a space which they had made for themselves, and I go there for a very little while. So I
Mhm.
don't think I used to quite actually enjoy their spaces, and I used to wonder. I wish I had such a space also where I could be total. Now, because what is how you see the command is, they know. Like my mother-in-law, she knows why she's cooking what she's cooking. She
Mhm.
knows what is healthy. She knows what is the ingredient of that, and she knows the kind of where it has come from. So she's extremely knowledgeable about these things. I would call her an encyclopedia. So what that drew me was inequality was visible in other aspects, yes, but in this aspect, I thought she was, and whenever she was silent, also it was more out of grace. She knew as much as anybody else did.
Mhm.
So, and this is what I've seen in all. I mean, my father, we have seven uncles. All women, they enjoy the part of cooking, and either you call it indulgence. I think I would never kind of break that equanimity because it is an equilibrium that they have established and they are happy.
Right. Why I'm saying this because I just happened to watch this movie this week, The Great Indian Kitchen. I don't know if you've seen it in
Oh,
Amazon.
I haven't seen it. I
Okay,
will
so
say
it is. It's a simple movie where nothing much is happening. The camera just follows the woman trying to put together 3 meals for the family, and she has
yes,
no help. Okay, and men are not the ones. They're not being shown as people who raise their voices and are cruel in out and out, that in very obvious ways. But just the sense of entitlement,
yes,
that they in terms of what they want for their food, how they want it, how it needs to be served, who's going to be cleaning after it, and it's they ask, the camera really makes you uncomfortable because these are the scenes that unfold in our houses every day,
yes.
and especially now in lockdown, everybody is at home, everybody is going to be figuring out what to eat,
I
and
think, I think
routines
I
are
totally. I just sorry to interrupt, but there's one thing. I definitely notice. For example, when you're eating, when you're sitting on the table, now there is a protocol you follow. Up
right.
celebration में first children eat, then men eat,
Mhm.
then women eat.
Mhm.
And in
Right.
a lot of families, I've seen that you leave your plates behind. Okay, and in some one of my family members, relatives, so newly born, I mean, mother-in-laws also. I mean, that dynamics is definitely there. That you're finding within a patriarchal system, this is the way you find your spaces for yourself. So your
Mhm.
daughter-in-law को, like, I remember, वो उसका husband खा के चला गया था, तो mother-in-law says तू उसकी प्लेट में क्यों नहीं खा रही है? उसको अलग,
Mhm.
she took a separate plate कि नहीं नहीं तू उसकी प्लेट में खा, उसकी, whether she actually, and she somehow believes that it will give her son a long life. But the point
Mhm.
is that for me, it expresses much more than that. So you see these inequalities and you see these constructs very much there. But
Mhm.
in these domains, as far as I am talking about, I mean, I just go as a visitor in the sense that I feel that to break the bubble, and also it's very difficult to, I find that they won't even probably comprehend because it is so much a part of their being. So unless I
Right.
want a revolution, which they don't want, which
Mhm.
is they're very comfortable in that whole space. But yes, you
Right.
see the hierarchies. Some demands ki khana ban gaya hai, and I remember somebody said, "Acha, aaj tumne mere liye orua chawal nahi banaya," and it's a big occasion. There were so many guests in the house, and mother went and actually made little bit of orua rice for the son.
Right, the sense of entitlement that,
Yes, yes, yes,
and it's looked at indulgence and in some care of
yes.
some form of care or and love.
Definitely,
Okay,
definitely.
coming back to the Oriya food, what is the what is the kind of street food which is available in Orissa, which is famous?
Yes,
Can you tell us a little bit about that?
first thing comes to our mind whenever we go is we have gupchup, which is what is called gulgappa. We call it
Hmm.
gupchup. Yes, and in Rourkela, I have awesome memories of हम लोग जाते हैं. So my husband's youngest chacha, he's in the bank. So they used to get a thela wala to come and stand in our house. And we used to just gorge on as many gupchups. And what I liked about gupchup there is different from what we have. It is the
Hmm.
mix. The pani is imli ka pani, and you add a little
Hmm.
bit of dhania patro and whatever masala.
Hmm.
The mixture that they make is aloo. Aloo
Hmm.
ka, mix it with onions and everything, and spice it up, and then you fill it in that gupchup and you with water. And there's no sweet element in that, and you just can go on eating and eating and eating. And
Right.
then you have papri, which you call usme up. One of the things which is very typical of Cuttack in particular is bada aloo dum and dahi bada aloo dum. And आप
Hmm.
कटक में या भुवनेश्वर में ना ठीक साइकिल्स पे एल्युमिनियम के डोल में लोग घूमते. इनफैक्ट जहाँ पे हम रहते हैं कटक में नीचे आई कुड सी एवरी मॉर्निंग द फैमिली यूज्ड टू मेक एंड द सो इट
Hmm.
इज पतला वाला दही बड़ा एंड देयर इज आलू की सब्जी. इट्स वेरी
Normal
थिन.
जो बड़े होते हैं, they're dipped in very thin yogurt water.
यस यस यू. एंड उसको जब आप सर्व करते हैं उसमें आप घुगनी भी. सो यू पुट दही बड़ा उसके ऊपर आलू दम एंड आल्सो लिटिल बिट ऑफ घुगनी एंड
Gugni
सब
का split
जिसको हम मटरा बोलते हैं ना.
सफेद मटर का.
या उसको बॉईल करके उसकी तो वैसे अलग चाट भी होती है. घुगनी चाट इज आल्सो देयर.
Mhm.
And you have there is one aloo chaat there in Cuttack where you boil the aloo, flatten it, and put it like a tikki in the middle. And जो आता है आप उसको मसाला मसाला डाल के उसको देते रहते हैं. And then my father-in-law used to get very छोटे छोटे समोसे in which The aloo was delicious because usme there used to be a flavor of what they call amboada, which is adrak with the mango flavor, and it used to
Okay.
give such a distinct flavor to the potatoes.
I've
And
never heard
we,
of adrak
yeah,
with mango flavor.
yes, it is delicious. And that when we first had it, I mean, and there's such छोटे छोटे समोसे होते हैं. You can just keep on gorging them, and of course, नीचे
Mhm.
uh, Cuttack is very famous for that because there's this particular
Mhm.
monk's shop. So एक chop वाला है जो बिल्कुल गली हमारी. Cuttack is like the part where I stay, our family stay, is like Old Delhi. So you have
Mhm.
these families. So there's a small shop. वहाँ पे दो jam हो जाता है, and he makes sorry, mutton chop, chicken chop, egg roll, egg chop, and it's very delicious there. And of course, there are a lot of other things. You have mixture है जो कटक का जो एक दुकान है सागर से हम लेते हैं तो वहाँ पे एक अलग अलग मूंगफली सेवी and all kinds of salt. You just mix them up and you have it. And sweets, खीर कदम is something which I love about उड़ीसा. It's like बीच में रसगुल्ला होता है उसके आसपास खोया जैसा कुछ होता है. When you bite it, you just that you know that
What is
rasgulla
it called?
explodes in kheer kadam.
What is it called?
Kheer kadam. So the
Tikka.
rasgulla explodes in your mouth. You know, it's like
Mhm.
and you just keep
We had
on.
that. We had a guest from Chandranagar. He was showing us kheer kadam, which
Yeah,
is very famous in this state. So there are a lot of sweets. So chena is a big part of
yes, yes.
um, in
One
Odisha. Chena.
yes, yes. This is one dish which my father-in-law used to get is called rosa body. Rosa
Mhm.
body is like पतला दूध होता है जैसे रबड़ी होती है but very thin. And
Mhm.
chना का you make like a पकौड़ा kind of a thing मीठा होता है उसको flatten करके बड़े की तरह and you put it in the buddy and it's
Mhm.
really delicious. So this is also very typical of
Is it also called kheer sagar or kheer sagar is different from this one?
Kheer Sagar. I don't know, but Kheer Kadam is very famous. We used to just get loads of it. Kheer Kadam is very typical of that place,
All
and
right.
it's
And you were telling, and there is this chena poda which is so famous.
Chena Chenapod. Yes, तो Chenapod is these people used to come to our house वो गांव से बना के लाते हैं और हमारे डोर बेल बलती थी और बोलते कि ले लो so they बना के आप काट के आपको देते हैं. It's very nice. It's like I don't know how to make it. It's like uh,
It has a very interesting origin story. Apparently, the halwai left the chena and sugar on the tandoor by mistake, and the sugar caramelized and it got burned and it got baked, and it had this caramelized, crispy, sweet top, and that's how by mistake it was invented. And it's such an
it's
iconic
very,
dish of this.
yes, yes, yes. It is very much so, very much so. And there are so many at the moment. I mean, I had made a list. I don't. They will come back to me. The rasgulla, of course, is very nice. एक छोटा सा joke है kind of a thing हम लोग के लिए चलता है. This you said a Bengali similarity. So
Mm-hmm.
my cousins on my husband's side, there's a little kind of jokes which go on. कि बंगाली लोग बोलते हैं कि जयदेव हमारा है. I mean, Jaidev belongs to Bengal and Odisha says that Jaidev belongs to Odisha. So he was telling his mother, "Hey, this is not fair that Jaidev belongs to them also. Now they're saying Rasgulla also belongs to them. Rasgulla belongs to Odisha and not to Bengal. So this kind of a tussle of what belongs to Bengal and what to Odisha is very much a part of the flavor of conversations with people. एक जोक भी आता है कि जैसे आप बस में जा रहे हैं तो एक बंगाली ने पूछा कि आपने आपने उड़े तो उसने उड़े मींस उड़िया इन बंगाली ही सेड यू आर उड़िया तो ही सेज हाँ मैं उड़िया मौसा मच्छर बोलता है मच्छर उड़ता भी है और काटता भी है तो इट इज दिस काइंड ऑफ अ टसल दैट इज
Both.
देयर
Right.
बट या
So is chena used for offering as an offering to the gods in temple? Is chena finds a place there?
Yeah, I think so. Chena, it does find a place there. It is. I'm not very sure. मैंने कहाँ देखा है, but yes, chena is a very important part of the cuisine, definitely. And one of the things which is very popular is chena payas.
Mm-hmm.
उसको, which is you make it. I mean, we make my mother-in-law makes it very well with small pieces. It could be uh, different ways of making it, but it is. Uh, Chena is very important. I mean, you make payas is very important part of it, and chinna pour
Right.
of water is there.
Hello, Mitu ma'am. How nice of you to join us. She's just commenting. She wants to see pictures of and videos of all these delicacies that you're describing. Uh,
Yes, yes, yes. I
verbal
now,
description.
yeah, now as I was thinking about this, I was wishing that I had taken those ठेले पे photos लेके मुझे बना के रखना चाहिए. It is so much a part of the memory that we still talk of it and we don't realize. And after talking to you, I realize that one needs to document it.
Why I was asking you about China, and I mean, traditions must have changed and they're constantly adopting, and it must have, like you're saying, must have found place in some of the temple offering. But traditionally, it's considered uh, upshakun or impure that the milk has split. It
Okay.
wasn't very celebrated thinking agar we've always offered kheer and milk products to the gods, but chena is something we started offering much later, and how it's
इसका
become part of our.
I can't say about Chena, but there are certain foods which are not offered to God, and
Okay.
which have been frequently mentioned to me by my mother-in-law. Very
Mm-hmm.
frequently. For example, just I was asking her. I mean, I keep asking her, and she has to repeat so many times. 30 years. Every time I go ask her almost similar question, and one of the
Mm-hmm.
most patient persons. So, like for example, she says, "जो prasad में जो mixed vegetables हैं, like you will not put बैंगन,
Mm-hmm.
you cannot put आलू जो हम लोग रोज खाते हैं टमाटर नहीं पड़ेगा why what do
Mm-hmm.
they say this is बिलायती बैंगन this is बिलायती
Mm-hmm.
आलू and बिलायती tomato so what you will put is what they say combo आलू which is जो root से निकलता है you will put shakkar kandi that is these are all indigenous products
Indigenous, and there's a lot of suspicions around these foreign imports, especially the ones that have come to us through Colombian exchange, the potatoes and tomatoes and.
exactly so this is they call it बिलायती आलू बिलायती बैंगन and बिलायती
Mhm.
टमाटर टमाटर तो मंदिर के प्रसाद में कभी नहीं पड़ता और ये तीन चीजें तो बिल्कुल नहीं जाती हैं उसमें आप
Right.
उसमें अरबी डाल सकते हैं यू पुट अरबी इन दैट एंड यू
Mhm.
पुट दिस खम्बो आलू पड़ता है यू पुट डिफरेंट आई मीन आलू पड़ता है डेफिनेटली कद्दू है
Mhm.
कोखारू एंड इनफैक्ट कद्दू का कोखारू उसको बोलते हैं my mother-in-law that was another beautiful thing that I it was like my eyes wide open कि ऐसा भी होता है कोखारू फूलो होता है कोखारू कद्दू का जो फूल होता है ना उसका
Mhm.
make a nice kind of a pakoda kind of stuff. You know, you wrap it in besan and you fry it.
Yes, it's very delicious, and sometimes you can stuff that flour also with a poppy seed
Yes, yes,
paste
yes.
or something like that.
Yeah, and kacha kela, you know, she used to mix kacha kela with aloo and make beautiful tikkis out of it. And
Right.
फिर एक खम्बे का उसके अंदर से निकाल के, you know, you make stuff out of that. A lot of things. I mean, it's a
It is. I
whole.
find it so fascinating. This whole obsession with what is indigenous, what is pure.
Yeah,
I was just reading the other day the bananas that are available to us, like normally available to us in markets. They're all the South American variety.
okay.
They are dumped here and they are grown here for the American market predominantly, and those are the ones that we consume. Like absolutely yellow, beautiful looking these bananas that we find, they're actually not the indigenous varieties. In fact, we're losing our indigenous varieties because they are predominantly being grown here. You know, in we have such different varieties of bananas. Uh,
Yes,
you do not ordinarily find them in the market now
yes,
because
yes.
it's been taken
Yeah,
over by.
in Cuttack, I've seen you have these nice small bananas. I mean, I could
Yeah,
have two at the same time, and they're not very sweet also. मतलब
right.
खाए आप तो खाते ही रहते पता नहीं चलता क्योंकि you have to speak for other people also. I mean, for me, these are. Let me tell you. I mean, being from an urban. I mean, I'm totally urban bred, of course, and for me, this was seeing a huge variety of nature and where I could really see how cooking transforms nature into culture and how
Mhm.
much variety is there and the whole idea is that you stay as close to the I mean you have so much understanding of the जैसे हम हिंदी में कहते हैं तासीर of the vegetable and the fruit
You
that
eat
you
local, you
yes
eat seasonal, you do not use a lot of oil, um,
yes
but at the same time, it's very palatable because of the kind of combination of spices that are being used. And
absolutely and what
what has to be eaten when also, the time of it.
Absolutely. And also, it is not because you're dieting or you think because of nutritional value. It is because whatever the spread comes is out of your understanding of the nature of the vegetable or the nature of what you're eating. And that is what makes a difference for me. I mean, it is not, there's a deep, at least in my family, there's a deep, and my parents-in-law, there's a lot of knowledge and consciousness of what you are cooking and why you're cooking and where you're placing. And that makes an entire, it brings you into an entire different cultural level. That food is a part of who you are. So you become through your cooking also. You understand? Cooking becomes an important process of transformation because you may. I was looking at one of our thinkers. I don't want to drop names, so I will not mention that. Everybody can digest anything depending on where you are. So the choice of what you make and the choice of what you choose to eat and not to eat and when to eat and how to eat, that is culture, and that is what I see. The consciousness I see in my family, a lot of it.
Right,
And
right.
what is very inspiring for me for that.
We don't have a lot of time, and I wanted to sneak in this discussion on pithes of Odisha.
Yes. You have pita is like we have chokuri pita. I just mentioned there is chokuri
Tell
pita.
us what pitha is. What exactly is pitha?
Pita is it's like a puffed rice powder rice ko. Usko you can make it into different consistencies with water. So sometimes you make it like idli. Sometimes you can make it like जैसे वो इडली बनाते हैं उसके अंदर स्टफ करके जैसे आप उसको मोंडा पीठा हो जाता है उसको आप खा लेते हैं. And hamara favorite used to be, there is chokuli pitha, there is kakada pitha, there is.
These are rice dumplings which are steamed.
You can call it, yeah, some is dumpling, some are steamed, some are like, our favorite is chokuli pitha, which is like half biri dali. Biri dali is important, biri dali and dalna is one of the, how could you miss the dalna, the most typical dish of Odisha, where you mix vegetables, and biri dal is the moong dal, which is
vegetables and dal together.
Yeah. So you mix urad dal thoda sa, and then you half rice, half that. You soak it, mix it, and you have it with chana aloo ki sabzi. चने की दाल होती है ना, चना दाल and आलू की सब्जी के साथ उसको खाते हैं. That is what was sometimes made in the. So you have huge enduri pita. I mean, it is delicious with. So you have so many pitas that I don't even remember the names. And they are made with. I mean, that is, I think, another typical element of Odisha. Definitely.
And they're savory as well as sweet. These pitas, or they're always sweet.
Like chakuri pita is keen, and baki जो मैंने mention किए हैं मोड़ा pita, kakada pita, they're all sweet. And there is a huge variety. अब जब शादियां होती हैं तो आप एक variety of pita बांध के देते हैं. Like मुझे दिया था एक तलवा के, you just give it to you, and not always, but some people do that. So it is a very central element of Odisha. Dalna. And also my introduction to it was through my husband in Bombay. This aloo bharta with you mash करके प्याज डाल के उसमें ऊपर से कच्चा सरसों का तेल, tomato पोड़ा, that you burn the tomato and then उसको mash करके बड़ी डाल के as side dishes. I mean, I can just go on and on. Just so many variations of things that you can have. Bengan bharta is so different from what we have here.
The buddies of Royal Kerala are supposed to be very famous, you were telling me.
No, that is, I'm talking about Kyonjar.
Okay.
That is called Jali Badi. It is gold hoti hai, and हमारे लिए my mother-in-law had sent it to us. It is delicious. And उसको आप बड़ी चूरा भी खा सकते हैं, as you know, with your lunch as a side. Mash the badi, you can put it in bharta. You can बैंगन का भरता is boiled बैंगन, roasted बैंगन with aloo mashed, and you add again sarson ka tel and badi to it. So these little things that you make are, I mean, it's such a spread that you just relish the food. And when I used to come back home, my daughter used to tell me, Choti thi, holidays se used to come back and I used to give her dal sabzi. She and my husband used to say, "Bas itna sa." So it is you. And when I saw that spread, I used to ask my husband, "Ki tumhare ghar mein guest aa rahe hain kya?" But that spread is always there. I mean, it is house full all the time. Anybody can come and join. There are so many things one can go on and on about. Little things as I'm remembering. How they greet the guests when they come, what kind of offerings do they make.
Mm-hmm.
Very different from the urban culture, urban way of greeting the guests.
Right. Just for the sake of starting a conversation and just asking the question, what do you think? Why do you think Odia cuisine is not very mainstream? It's not very famous as compared to other regional cuisines. You know, the other day we were trying to figure out कि हम दिल्ली में कहाँ Odia food खा सकते हैं, and we couldn't think of any place. There are Bengali restaurants around.
There's only one in Delhi Hat now.
There
And
is one.
that is the only one. Or you go to Jagannath Temple, वहाँ पे you can have obada. Odisha, I really can't place. I mean, maybe it's not marketed. I don't know. Bengali cuisine तो हर जगह पे है. I mean, I will not make these statements, but everybody is there. Bengalis and I mean, Odia people. I don't know. I also wonder why it is not. Maybe the dishes are not maybe glamorous enough because they're very simple dishes. I mean, if you dalna hai, in I mean, or mutton curry like kosa mangsho. I've seen it in Bijoli Grill. Hai, jaise that you have Odia stall there, and there's the Bijoli Grill in Delhi Hat. So the kind of things that Bijoli Grill gives is not the kind of things that probably if it was an authentic Odia cuisine, they would not have. So maybe it is not. Maybe it is people have not really tasted much of it because of it. It's a vicious circle.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a vicious circle. People have not tasted it, and they have tasted only maybe one variety of it, and you
I
have to.
find it very interesting that you said that it's not marketed well in the sense that we have a very clear distinction between घर का खाना कैसे होता है और बाहर जब हम खाना खाने जाते हैं our expectation is very different.
So well, so
My mom has this very sweet response. You know, take her to a place. Sometimes she's like, "Hey, ये तो घर पे बन जाएगा." Why are we come out to eat this?
yes,
This is like a vegetable we could make at home, and we have this particular idea. Of course, there is no easy answer to you. We are only here to spark conversation. Like for example, we all of us enjoy Asian food, but there are only certain kind of foods that
yeah.
that is not very popular.
Exactly. Maybe nobody's really put a thought to actually promoting Odia food, and उसमें भी at least my experience when I got into the family, I had to develop a palate for it. And once I realized the kind of non-vegetarian cuisine also, it's very delicious and fish ka preparation. I mean, they're very particular about fresh fish and the knowledge about the fish is very clear. So I'm just saying that maybe it is, nobody really put the mind to really promoting Odisha as a part of the and kind of wanting your palate to encourage you to ki jaake taste karo ki kitna delicious food hai.
Right. And I really think now it is going to change because the fact that we are having this conversation and there is this curiosity around different kind of cuisine because now you know it's considered a part of your cultural capital how well traveled you are, what kind of different cuisines have you tasted and what kind of knowledge do you have about them, you know.
Yes.
So I'm sure with time I think that should change and people and I think social media is making that possible also, you know.
Yeah,
There are a lot of people who go to places and they document these foods and that's for us to see on our YouTubes or on Instagram, and then there's this added curiosity and we can Google anything and cook anything if you want, you know, the dishes that you probably mentioned. I think some of those things can definitely be tried out in our kitchen. So on that note, I'm going to end this conversation. Thank you so much for taking out time for us. And
Thank you here. And I do hope that it was worth it. That's it. I hope it.
Great time. I had a great time, and it's people who are interested in food like this. In terms of there are very few of us. Not everybody is interested to know about the histories and stories behind it. It's a very niche audience, but I think all of us enjoy this kind of conversation, and we're always looking to learn more. Thank you so much.
Thank you. That was from Odisha, Sanjay Tripathi. I heard it.
Okay, thank you so much. Hi, Sangeeta. Thank you so much for joining us.
She's my mother who's much younger than me. So I'm so glad they heard it because they should be, I mean, they have to validate what I said. So it was awesome. They joined. So
Hi,
thank you so much.
Radhika.
Yeah,
Hi,
so
Divya. Lovely.
oh,
It's so nice. So many of them have joined us and have commented, and I'm sure a lot of our friends and family and people are interested are going to watch this later,
yes.
who've not been able to join us, and that would be lovely. All right. Thank you so much, and we'll see you soon again. Take care. Bye.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Bye bye.